This episode of Where's My Money is brought to you by Enable Me. If you've got big money goals in 2026, you need the right support to make them happen. Chatting to the team at Enable Me, it's a great place to start. For more info on their financial coaching and strategic advice, head to enable.me. Welcome back to Where's My Money? Today we're talking about something that thankfully I haven't had to think about in a very long time. Thanks, Laura. Money and dating. Datingadvice.com says almost half of singles say finances are a top dating priority when picking a partner, and 1 in 3 people has actually turned down a date because of money worries. Across relationships, money and values clash more than you might think. In New Zealand, 1 in 5 people say money stresses cause relationship problems, and that hits hardest in the early stages when habits and expectations are still being formed. So today we've got 3 pros here to talk about it from the human side. Sarah Chatwin's here to unpack the psychology of money and relationships. Elise Dalrymple-Keast from Compatico's here to talk about her new platform and what dating is like in 2026. And Shelley Palman is back from Enable Me with some practical dating and money tips. Let's talk about money before the red flags do it for you.
Welcome to Where's My Money? One man, $1 million of debt, one podcast to find a way out.
Thanks for coming into the Where's My Money studio.
Oh, so pleasurable for me. Absolutely fantastic on a horrible day outside. It's lovely to be inside.
It is terrible outside, and thank goodness for roofs. Look, this is obviously this is a podcast that's based on personal finance and how we can be better with money and talk about money. And obviously a big part of this, and we've touched on it across 6 seasons of the pod now, is money and relationships. And
it is a biggie, isn't it?
Yeah. And we were saying before we started recording that money is a common denominator for any couple ever, because there's no way any of us can exist without money in some way, shape or form, right?
That's right, yeah.
Some people might own a house, some people might rent, some people might have kids. Like, there's all these variables, but money is probably the most common denominator in a relationship.
And it funds the dream, doesn't it? Because if you haven't got a house, you might want one. Yep. If you want to travel, then where's that going to come from? How are you going to fund that? Yep. And so from a psychological perspective, 1 in 5 couples in New Zealand, so I looked at some New Zealand stats, have issues around financial affairs. So it is something that is overarchingly important for people. Interestingly for me, I found that it was in those younger couples, so the 18 to 34-year-old age group. Those couples seem to struggle the most if you look at the statistics in New Zealand.
Why do you think that is? That's interesting because that's a generational thing. Is it because the boomers, as a, not casting aspersions, but a pretty sweeping statement is boomers had more money because obviously they didn't at the start, but they've been lucky enough to ride the property market in New Zealand as they have. They've now got more disposable income. They're probably retired. Chances are they're not fighting over money because they're pretty comfortable with it, generally speaking.
But they also might have built up financial resilience by being careful and being opportunistic and taking advantage of those situations that you outlined.
Because chances are they weren't being marketed to as hard as we are in 2026. There was less of a product. I've got to have this.
Yes,
tech.
Absolutely.
You've got to have
social media
now.
presence.
Correct.
Too. With the pressures that come with that. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think that if you're talking about the younger couples, the 18 to 34-year-olds, you're talking about people who are new to the financial game and new to having that responsibility or to be dealing with finances responsibly.
Yeah, and you go through a lot of ages and stages quite quickly when it comes to money too, because you leave high school, you might have your first job and you might save up for something and buy it and save up for something and buy it, and then all of a sudden you're at uni and you might not have as much time for the job, or you might have moved into a flat so you've got your own expenses to cover.
That's right.
You have a full-time job and you've got all this new money that you can do stuff with. Are you saving it? Are you going on an OE? Like, there's so much packed into that 10-year thing. Yeah. Then you're in a long-term relationship, maybe. You might get married and you might have a kid in that next 10-year gap. Like, there's so much that can change so rapidly.
It's very dynamic, and I think you've hit it. There's such a lot going on. It's a dynamic, ever-changing landscape during those years, the 18 to 34, or let's say, 18 to, say, 35, that people just are juggling and negotiating and figuring things out because they're growing and learning what they want out of life.
With all that dynamic nature of it, of that age and stage, then you throw relationships into it, where it's not just the changing nature of it all, you've got two people that you have to try and navigate and
double the trouble.
Yeah, and combine goals or aspirations or dreams or perhaps personality differences.
And this is a really interesting one, because when you think about relationships, and as a psychologist, we talk to a lot of our clients about relationships and the dynamics of such, and figuring things out as to how to make relationships feel comfortable, to build trust, to do all of those things, to have relationship resilience. It's interesting to think that two people meet, fall in love, or they're attracted to each other, and then they think, okay, maybe we could make this work, we want to get close. They come from, different backgrounds. They've had different parenting styles.
Yep.
One could be authoritarian, one could be permissive. So you've had different messages sent to you with regard to a whole manner of things, including the financial landscape.
So do you think that's the biggest factor straight up in terms of how they were raised around money?
I'm not sure whether I would say, because I like to take an interactionist approach and not pin everything on one thing, because I'm always using the phrase, there's a multiplicity of factors that contribute to a situation. I would say it is very significant, because, as much as we might love or loathe being exiles of our past, we are. We have parents who have parented us in a certain way. They have made mistakes. They have had triumphs, and we've also formulated our own approach to life as we've grown.
Yeah.
So these two people come together from very different backgrounds. They may share similar values. There may be things that are very in sync, because often we're attracted to opposites, but often we're attracted to people who have a similar set of values, and who may have similar aspirations and goals. But there are always going to be differences. So, of course, under the umbrella of finances, money matters, and all the rest of it, you could imagine there's going to be some rub, some, dissonance, some areas of disagreement, and a lot of areas of confluence.
Something I've been open about in this podcast is how money affects my confidence. I remember when we started the podcast, we were, quite close to having to potentially consider selling our house in order to get rid of the debt, because it was
overwhelming.
Interest rates were about to crash over us and take over. And I remember feeling, coming to work and just feeling like a sack of shit, I was just like, it's all consuming, and your confidence in every part of your life can really take a toll. I imagine now if I was dating and I had either heaps of money or not much, my confidence levels could be vastly
quite different.
Yeah.
Yes.
How is money and what we have or what we aspire to tied to our confidence?
Sadly, these days it is tied to our confidence.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would be a very individual thing. So I couldn't say it's hugely tied to everybody's confidence, but for some people it is definitely a definer. So it is very close to the surface of their skin. It's something that they focus on. It's something that is important to them. And that can be for a number of reasons. It could be from a slightly deprived upbringing. It could be because they aspire to have certain things in their lives. It could be because when they look at their life, or they think about their life, and they're planning to have a boat and 4 or 5 trips in a year and all of these things. So for some people, money is definitely closely tied into confidence, self-esteem, self-loving or self-loathing. For others, not so much.
Yeah.
But I think we can work with that if we have a really clear understanding of what we want out of life, because if we allow money to be our most significant driver, you can end up feeling overwhelmed about things when you don't necessarily need to. And I'm not talking about your situation, because many of your listeners and viewers out there will understand that feeling of, wow, I'm in deep here, I need to offload, I need to do something to change this situation. That's a little bit different from having money as your driver. But certainly confidence, self-esteem, self-loathing, self-loving, it's all tied up.
Do you think that's a red flag in a sort of dating scenario, if the money is the driver, if you pick up on that quite quickly? Is that a little red flag, or is that something that could be...
I think for some people it is. I think if you're going out on your first, second, third date and the flag is going up with regard to conversations always being about money. People that you're dating wanting to go to this club and this and do this, and it's, those highbrow kind of very expensive
It can be tricky though, because I imagine
absolutely.
if I was dating again, and luckily I don't have to go through the palaver of that, but you are trying to put your best foot forward and you want to impress. You want to show the shiny things and give someone a nice experience.
Yeah, I think we might need to have a little look at that and maybe do a little bit of a mind shift, because isn't it nice to meet people who don't need things and who aren't so caught up on going to the glitzy glam restaurants or doing the activities that require an outpouring of cash? I would probably be more attracted to that, but that's a personal kind of a thing.
I'd say our financial coach would be the same.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if a person is making demands of another person with regard to being seen somewhere or going somewhere or having to go to a place because it is this or that and it is high cost, I'm not sure that would fit so comfortably, certainly not with me and a number of people that I know. Perhaps for some people that might be attractive. We're all so different. So, we can make generalisations, but at the end of the day, that's what they are.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, if somebody feels that they are overwhelmed by that they feel that this person is making demands in that arena, it can have the effect of putting them off.
Moving on from dating, if someone is perhaps in a new relationship, or maybe it's one that's actually been, going strong for a long time.
Yeah.
Are there dangers around the potential of the earning imbalance? Because it's pretty common that two people in a relationship won't earn exactly the same.
Yeah, so that's right. In fact, when I was looking at the data around this, income disparity, so when one partner earns significantly more than the other, or there is a feeling between them that, somebody is bringing home more bacon than the other, that can create a little bit of rub and a little bit of conflict. I think in those heated moments, the person that's earning more might, use that to leverage their importance, or they can do. And often that is one of perhaps three sources of conflict under that financial umbrella.
What are the other two?
That partners have different spending habits. Yeah. So you've got one person, probably like myself, who watches things a bit and has very few needs, and then another that has a desire to have stuff.
That's your classic spender and saver personalities.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's income disparity, high spendings, minimal savings, or just different spending habits. And also thoughts around investments. So we're talking about buying a house, getting a dog, getting a new car. So the types of spending, not only spending and saving, but the types of spending, there can be conflict around those things.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I put that into perspective for our relationship, I feel like I'm fine with the little things. I don't bother with the little transactions. I don't need too much stuff, constant supply of stuff, but I'm certainly always focusing on the big ticket item.
Yeah.
Whereas Laura, my partner, is probably more inclined to do the constant microtransaction over the course of a week, and then that's where we probably have a bit of grind as, why'd you spend so much this week? Yet I could probably spend more than her all in one go and be just as guilty of spending the money that we hadn't budgeted for.
I get it. And I think if we looked at gender statistics, you might be typically male and she might be typically female. I also think those micro transactions that she focuses on, the statistics were really clear about women having far more anxiety than men. 64% of women, as opposed to 38 or 40% of men, had anxiety around their financial situation and around finances. So that's really interesting, isn't it, that you two fit into that? You're just stereotypical.
Just the moulds.
Textbook.
We're just so normal.
You guys
straight up
are
and down.
textbook. Love it.
So how do you tackle that? Is communication key here?
Key.
Yeah.
Absolutely key. It's so lovely. I absolutely love my job. I meet a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. And even though people might think, psychologist, when you go to a psychologist, it must all be negative. It very rarely is, because we just, rub off those layers and this beautiful positive stuff comes to the surface. But when a person says to me, look, I'm fabulous at communicating, but I have this issue. I'm thinking to myself, well, you may not be so fabulous at communicating.
You might be communicating with yourself.
Exactly, and in a fashion and form that resonates for you.
Yeah.
So communication is so important. Finding a way, a time, a format that resonates with the other person or any of the other people that are significant in the scenario.
So there's no one size fits all to fix the communication problem?
No, absolutely not. The key is to communicate. So again, the research suggests that if you are really transparent about things, transparency in and around financial matters particularly means trust. It almost equals trust. When you lose that, there's a bit of a dive in trust. So being honest, being transparent, communicative, choosing your times and places where you communicate this stuff, giving people notice as opposed to being retrospective.
That all seems so logical.
Yes.
Like, I'm a person of logic, and that all seems like
I am
too. You go,
yeah.
well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing that then? Like, what is the?
Well,
is it the anxiety? Is there fear of
judgment,
caught out? You know.
Hey, don't take my job away. Stay in your lane. Remain in your lane.
Yeah, okay, I'll be the podcast guy.
All of those things. It is, the fear of being judged, the fear of failure, the fear of being derided, or ridiculed, anxiety around matters that, are really important. And as you say, they are our daily bread. Money feeds us. Money allows us choices, and money allows us to make decisions that we may not make without money. So these are very important things. And we do get scared and we do get anxious. And also, irrespective of the amount of time that you have known a partner or been in a relationship, you still want to appear sexy and savvy and onto it and smart and all of those things if you want to maintain a good relationship.
Yeah.
So when you talk about these things, you want it to come from a place of absolute transparency and honesty and perhaps a willingness to work with your partner to get these things sorted, figure them out and create a plan.
Possibly challenging to do that without coming off as trying to take control, because I think if one person in the relationship sees a problem and goes, oh, this is probably not working in our best interest, I'm going to bring it up the next opportunity we have.
Yeah.
Thin line to walk between trying to be in control and lead the process, or is it if someone does need to take control, is it just worth doing and working on that?
So I'll answer that with a question and then I'll answer it. Do we need leaders in life? We do. Yeah. So, no, I don't see that as controlling at all. Do you know what? We have to debunk that control myth a bit. That people say, you're a control freak or he's a control freak. I tend to think that people who are out of control often say that as a defense mechanism.
That's interesting.
I find that a lot of people who are called controlling are often quite caring, and they're often the people that are courageous enough to ask the question. Now, I understand there are equally as many probably very controlling people out there, but let's be careful before we label anyone with regard to anything, because I don't see raising an issue as controlling. I see it as if you plan your conversation, if you present your conversation like a beautifully gift-wrapped package to your partner.
Some Google Slides or PowerPoint presentation.
At a time when you're not stressed and at a time where you feel you've got that time to speak.
Peacetime.
Absolutely. Without anybody around, so there can be no...
Get the kids to bed.
Exactly. No other stressors.
Yeah.
Well, taking control in that situation is just wonderful. I would welcome that. If my partner had an issue about financial stuff and I hadn't picked up on it, and that is absolutely highly likely, I would love for him to come forward and say, hey, listen, just thinking about this, have you got 10 minutes or half an hour? Yeah, absolutely, let's sit down. I wouldn't find that controlling. I would find that courageous. I would find that coming from a position of leadership. And also, if a person pushes back a bit and is uncomfortable with it, that's okay for them to say, and you make a little negotiation about when you could talk about it. Nothing needs to devolve or get nasty. That's communication as well. So this huge area of communication, it has breadth and depth, but it's important. And additionally, if you and your partner come together and can't get resolution to that, taking it to the next level of a counsellor, a psychologist, a registered person, a registered and respected health professional, somebody that resonates for you, somebody that you like, somebody that you feel you can communicate with, take it to that level, because it can just get rid of all those layers and off you walk very happily with some kind of conclusion, some kind of closure, and a really nice feeling of good, we've achieved.
It's probably, you'd look at that as an investment in your future, right?
Absolutely.
That's money well spent.
I think that for psychologists today, a lot of our clients come to us with, that modus operandi. It is something that they're investing in themselves, because it can create these beautiful, clear pathways of communication that they can enact in a relationship, in a workplace relationship, with their children, with a sibling. So it's a lot of learnings that you can generalise across a large range of contexts, if you like.
Statistically, a lot of relationships come to an end. You've said 1 in 5 relationships have money problems.
Conflict, yeah.
And a lot of them will likely end up possibly not working and dissolving as a relationship.
Yeah.
How often do you see that in your line of work? Is that
in and around money?
Yeah.
I do see that, because people have very different views. They don't figure out ways to connect. They don't communicate adequately around it. They don't give each other the space and time. They then go and speak to inappropriate people, which may be family and friends.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Who are,
fuel on the fire.
Where the pendulum swings, and it doesn't always swing in a, let's say in a expert kind of a fashion.
Yeah.
And so, there's a gulf. And then the gulf just gets wider and wider, and you can end up with some serious relationship issues. I would like to think that if people feel that their relationship is worth the effort, which most are, I mean, I'm hoping that people listening and viewing out there think that relationships are worth the effort,
of course,
that people would take it to the level of seeking out some help, because it really can be the difference between breaking up and all of that heartache and hurt and the horror of that, and working down the path, putting things back together, and even creating a more positive pathway with greater communication pathways open, with greater clarity and greater understanding. So I mean, I'm always of the opinion that you can work things through, or you try before you give up.
How do you prepare for setbacks? How do you because naturally you make a plan, it's not going to go to plan.
Yes.
The goal might still be there, and you might get there, but there will be setbacks. It's life.
Yes, and I think as adults we have to acknowledge that this is our ultimate goal, the trip to the GC. Oh, wow, I had to have an operation, and that set me back a bit. But
the car needed new tyres.
That's right. One of the children had a problem, and we had to get some tuition in for school or something like that.
Yep.
So as an adult, you will understand that, there are a few pebbles and rocks on every road, and you can navigate around them, but they're still there. So you have to work out a plan to get over them. And that's just about being an adult. That's about understanding that things crop up. That's about communicating. Yeah. We're coming back to that all the time, aren't we?
It's come up so much, not even talking about dating, just about money in general, communicating with your boss if you feel like you're deserving of a pay rise, communicating with your parents if you think that maybe a loan might be, just constantly, that's the whole idea of the podcast is how can we talk about it more and stop money being a taboo, a reason for shame, a reason for guilt, and more of a tool that we can work alongside and be more ambitious with.
And that's what non-communication makes these issues. It makes them very dark and scary. For a lot of people, money can be something that they fear because they don't feel that they will have enough, that they feel that things will crop up and they won't be able to, control their destiny.
Control.
It's
control.
Yeah, but not in a bad way.
No.
It's just control in a way of getting through life.
What does your ideal retirement look like? Picture it, and Enable Me can help you achieve it. From financial coaching to strategic advice, they've got you covered. Pay down debt, grow your wealth, and retire well. Head to enable.me to get started. To talk about what dating is actually like in 2026, because I'm picking things have changed since I was trying to do it. Elise Dalrymple-Keast, the CEO and owner of Competico, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be here.
We've known each other for ages through working in radio back in the day. But you've been on an amazing personal journey, which is probably enough for an entire podcast of its own. But tell me about Compatico. What is it and how is it different to the likes of something like Tinder or Bumble?
Yeah, so Compatico is a matchmaking agency specifically for people 30 to 70 plus. So our members literally range from 30 years old all the way up to 86 at present. And we have success stories from all of those age brackets. We've actually just got a 73-year-old and an 80-year-old who have said that they've found the loves of their lives.
Yes, that's awesome.
But a big part of why they use Compatico and how it's different from an app is there are no public profiles. So we are a human-to-human matchmaking service. That means that you apply to join, and if we think, yep, you would be a great fit for Compatico, then we do a police check, we meet every member, we interview them, we write their profile.
Wow.
And then once they are happy with their profile, then that goes live in our system. And we only share profiles if we think that we've actually got a match. So we share it with each party individually. And if they both agree to meet, then we put them in contact.
That's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. You're basically doing everything but the date itself.
Well, exactly. That's what people are paying for, right?
Yep.
Is they don't have to do the swiping. They don't have to message because, the apps don't really, you can put filters on, but how good are they actually? And so you don't know who you're chatting to. And it's like a part-time job.
It's like Facebook Marketplace. You don't know what you're dealing with. From my memory of Tinder, which is going back a long time. You mentioned, though, that people are paying for the service. It's not free. We're used to a lot of things in life being free, but we've stuck ads on top of it just to make it not free, like the freemium model. And it's not cheap either. Like, let's be honest, it's a premium service. Why do you think people are prepared to pay for that in 2026?
Time is a big part of that. People are sick of that back and forth messaging and then only for it to go nowhere.
Yeah.
And then the experiences on apps are very different for men and for women. For women, it is just overwhelming. There are so many people messaging you, and so then you don't reply to half the people because you just can't keep up. And then for men, an average looking man has to swipe right roughly 1,000 times to get a single coffee date. So it's
I'm having flashbacks now. Yeah.
it's crushing, you know.
Yeah.
And so you're paying to avoid that pain.
Yeah.
But also dating apps are geared towards young people in a lot of ways.
Totally.
And so
it's been gamified, right? It is
Totally.
like playing a pokey machine.
Totally. And so if you're in your 50s, your 60s or 70s, they can be really desolate places or people feel excluded from that. And so they want a place to go where they can meet someone who has been vetted, they feel safe, and then they know that if we are sending them a profile, it's because we genuinely think, hey, we think you have enough in common to go for a date. And so paying for that for people buys back time, but also that confidence that this person is actually worth meeting up with.
How do you think money changes behaviour once someone is dating? Do you think that a paying client's going to show up to a first date differently knowing that they've both got a bit of money?
Yes and no. Sometimes I think regardless of how much money you have, you need a little bit of feedback. And so sometimes I think if people have been out of the game, we do hear, hey, this person showed up, but maybe they weren't as well presented as they could have been. But then the great thing about us is that we get that feedback and we can pass it on to that person.
It's like an Uber rating.
Yeah, exactly.
Down
we
to
can
4.8 stars. Sorry, buddy, you didn't tie your shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, maybe just like iron your shirt next time, so that can happen. But we do find that people are intentional. So like they show up, they tend to not muck around if we introduce them. They go on the date, they give us feedback, and then they say yes or no.
Yeah.
Whereas, on the apps, it can really, really drag. And you can message someone for 3 weeks and be like, are we going to ever meet or no? What's happening here?
Totally.
So
Stop kicking the can down the road, buddy. Or sending eggplant emojis to me every day. Like, let's get this show on the road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We do not. We have a zero tolerance policy for unconsensual eggplant emojis.
That's fantastic. Good to know. But going back to this is a whole new world to me. When you're vetting people and helping them write their profiles, how often are you talking about financial ambition? Is that a big part of their sort of mission statement for themselves?
Yeah, that's something that we ask is what like, what are you looking for in terms of someone's financial status? And most people say, look, I'd prefer someone who's sort of on par with me and can keep up. And so that varies depending on the type of clients. You know, some people, they maybe have a house or they've just got like a good nest egg and they want someone who's similar to them. Then we also have people who've perhaps been incredibly successful business owners and, you know, like their net worth is in the millions.
Yeah.
And so they want someone who can, and I've heard this sentence more than once, sit up the front of the plane with them because that's what they're at.
Do you think this is the future of dating? You know, obviously the app was a big shift for people going, first there was phone dating and then there was nzdating.com and then there was Tinder and Bumble and Grindr, and it sort of this highly curated, highly personalized dating experience. Do you think that this is where it's going?
I mean, yes, I do think that a free, low involvement option will always have a place, certainly for, you know, people who are really young or like live super far away. I think there is absolutely a place for that and that serves people. But certainly if you are, especially coming to it later in life, if you've gone through a separation, if you're divorced, you've built up quite a nest egg for yourself, and also you're really busy. You might have kids, you might have work.
You're time poor.
You don't have time to like swipe through apps. You don't have time to meet up with people who have zero in common with you and zero interests.
Honestly, the Tinder experience in my stage of life sounds horrific. I can't imagine doing it like any later in life either.
Oh, totally. And people lie about their age a lot, which is it doesn't really happen, you know, in 20s and 30s, but it's really common, 50, 60 plus. The amount of times I hear people tell me that they went on dates off an app and the person shows up and they're very clearly 10 years older than they said that they were.
27, I swear.
and or it's a different name. And so if you get to a date and already it's very clear that that person has lied to you, how can you then build anything trusting based on that? So services like Compatico, I think, will become more and more popular because it is just a much better option. Yeah. It also becomes harder as you get older because, you know, the pool shrinks as well. So it's really nice to know that you've got someone there looking specifically for you to introduce you to someone great as opposed to a random algorithm.
Yeah, nice. What's one piece of advice you'd give someone who is considering maybe jumping either back in or jumping into the dating world, not necessarily a uni student, but someone, you know, 30 plus? What would you say to them?
I would say make sure that you are really happy in yourself first. Dating is, I mean, look, I think that dating is worth it. Plenty of people are opting out of dating, which I think is a shame. I actually think, look, it's a good thing to do, and the reward is fantastic when you meet someone who's great, but it is also can be really brutal. It can be a knock to the confidence at times. So you need to make sure that you're feeling good in yourself and that you are doing it for the right reasons. So yeah, I say to people, do the work, especially if you are coming out of a relationship. Like, make sure that you feel resolved, make sure that you've been able to process those learnings, and go and talk to a therapist or talk to a counselor, because you doing the work on yourself gives you such a better chance of having a really great relationship in future.
Don't bring the baggage into the new one.
Yeah, exactly. And just be, you know, you need to be able to know, I like who I am. And so if someone doesn't, you know, if you go on a few dates and that person doesn't like you, that's okay because you like yourself. And it's really important to be secure in that.
You're on the apps, you've sat down for a wine with someone you've just met. Perhaps we could act like this is our first date. How early is too early to bring up money? Because it's a bit of an icky topic with someone you don't know, right?
It's a really icky topic, and people are really emotional when it comes to money. We're such weird creatures. Like we don't behave sensibly when it comes to money. There's so much emotion and psychology that feeds into it. Yeah. So you're damn right. It's a really hard subject to broach. So how early is too early? First date, as far as I'm concerned.
It's probably off limits, yeah.
On a personal note, I did find myself on the apps about 7 years ago now. Had some success. But yeah, one of my questions on the first date was, do you own a credit card? And he's still with me.
He passed the test.
He passed the test.
So it was a no to the credit card?
He had no credit card.
Okay,
and
fantastic.
remains to this day with no credit card.
There's no way you were going to let him have a credit card. I know your thoughts and feelings on them.
So earlier the better, I think, and Actually, I mean, I'm being a bit flippant, but it comes back to, I think, being really clear about your own money values.
Yeah.
So really understanding yourself and going, okay, what are my goals? You know, what do I financially want to achieve? Do I want to retire early, get mortgage free, help my kids?
Because that's more than likely what you'll be talking about, right? It's not,
Yes.
You're not going to be immediately addressing your mortgage structure or, you know, how much debt you have.
Or can I see your budget?
Well, you've seen my budget. But the icky stuff.
Yeah.
But it is, you know, when you're in that early stage of trying to build a rapport with someone, you do start to talk about your aspirations, and naturally that is tied to money.
Money facilitates those goals.
Yes.
Absolutely. So you want to kind of understand that you're aligned really goals-wise anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know, that comes down to, well, how can we get there? So really understanding, I think, your own values around just kind of money and finances in general.
Yep.
And then you can start to kind of loosely have those conversations around that.
Yeah, because
You can talk about yourself to start with. You don't have to grill them.
no, totally. But I guess the idea of dating is to meet someone that you are hopefully planning to stay with for the rest of your life. And that will naturally result in you sharing some kind of financial system together.
That's right.
Do you think a saver and a spender can last in a sort of yin-yang
That is such a good question.
beautiful way, or is it doomed from day one, being sort of polar opposite money personalities?
When they're very extreme to either end, when you have a real spender and an extreme saver, like a reusing tea bag kind of a saver, very different values.
Yeah.
So that's going to be tough.
A lot of friction
Yeah,
there.
a lot of friction. That said, there are so many positives and negatives to each money personality. So
Yes.
I love when I have a shopper and a saver, because actually 2 savers, they're not having much fun.
No.
2 shoppers, they're riddled in short-term debt.
Yeah.
You can actually find a nice balance between the two, and they bring different strengths to a
They
relationship.
hold each other accountable
They
for
do,
the things that
yeah.
they need for themselves.
Well, sometimes with savers, there's guilt around spend, and so the shopper can kind of remove a little bit of that and kind of push them to like do fun stuff. And
Like, this holiday's going to be great for us.
yeah,
Let's spend
and it
the money
is.
on it. Yeah,
like,
of
yeah,
course.
we've got to take a break. We can't work hard every single day and not
Yeah.
go on holiday. With shoppers, you know, they're really good at the strategy, the vision, the bigger picture. Not so good when it comes to execution. So that's where your saver can come into
Yeah.
it. So
With a bit of
they're the one-
automation.
yeah.
Some savings
They
goals.
set up the budget, they set up
Yeah.
that savings transfer, and they want to kind of bring things to life.
Yeah.
So I think a healthy mix is good. But when they're at the extremes, that
Yeah.
can create issues.
My money, your money. How long can that last until you've really got to join
Yeah.
things properly, sort of in a very central way? I can't remember having my money, your money anymore because I'm so
very-
used to having
Yeah.
a shared, not just a shared account, but shared basically everything.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on the life stage you're at.
Mm.
So if you're very young, then probably you do want to keep things separate for quite some time.
Yep.
We're not quite sure if this is going to be the long-term thing, you know, early 20s or late teens or that kind of
But
thing.
it's true love.
Yeah, so you think at the time.
Yeah.
So probably in the younger phase, or if you can sense that potentially there's water that needs to go under the bridge before you would say move in together or buy a house together or something like that. But when you do start to merge assets or move in together, which for some can happen really quickly,
Yeah.
and kind of do need to start that merging process at that point. As we know, there's a 3-year grace period for what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours.
Yeah.
So the old de facto.
Yep. Yep.
If
Yep.
you need to contract out, you need to do it, you know, before the 3 years is up. But I often see clients where they're married, and astoundingly, I've come across clients where they're married, they own a home together, and they have children together, and they're still talking about it as if it's his money and her money.
Yeah.
It's astounding.
No,
and so I'm kind of bringing them in and going, hang on a minute, you live together?
I'm
You want to
close-
retire together?
I'm close to a couple like that, and it baffles me. Like, how
Absolutely
can you?
bizarre.
Yeah.
Left hand doesn't know what the right's doing. Like, you own a house together. Like, do you know that that person's going to be okay for retirement?
And if something were to go pear-shaped and the relationship comes to an end, then you've got people not knowing how much debt they actually have.
That's right.
Which
Yeah.
is sounds so messy.
Very messy. Yeah. And I have also come across a couple where they actually got married, and it was then revealed that there was a large amount of debt And I'm talking into the hundreds of thousands that the other partner was unaware of.
Yeah, so you don't just inherit assets when you become united. You actually inherit someone else's debt
liabilities.
too.
Yeah. So it gets really messy, but I would be inclined to merge as much as possible. For some, they don't like creating friction in that regard, and it definitely can, because if you've got a shopper and a saver, the saver's going to be growling at the shopper for spending, and vortex of pain. So pocket money accounts, let's send $50 a week or whatever you want to do into those and be unaccountable for that. That's fine. But what are the bills? What is that person earning? It's amazing how many people don't know what the other person's even earning.
True.
Yeah.
How early is too early to bring that up in a relationship? That's an interesting one.
Yeah,
because again, it is a very taboo thing, and
very much so. Even now.
Well, I think even more so now, because it seems like a younger generation seems to be quite happy to share what they are earning, but then I don't know. It's like they want to tell the world what they're earning because they want to compare themselves to each other. But then in this relationship situation, it feels like it's not like that.
Yeah, and I think earning, some people link that through to their self-worth.
Yes.
It very much linked through to that. So the more you earn, you feel better about yourself, and it's an ego thing, I guess, because just because you earn more, it doesn't make you a better person.
No.
I've seen that time and time again too.
I bet.
It is definitely taboo. It's linked to self-worth. If you're asking that early on, a little bit of a red flag.
True.
I would say. You can gauge it though. I mean, if you're having a date with a hairdresser, there's a band.
Yeah.
You can Google it. There's a lot of information out there.
Unless they own the business.
Yeah.
In which case might be.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you are wanting to sort of understand whether that person has stability or the ability to help you both be financially stable and secure as time goes by, you want them to earn a reasonable amount of money, you can ask some pertinent questions about what they do and are they working full time? You can kind of piece it together.
How important is it that someone has a bit more ambition around increasing their income? Because it's, you say it's tied to self-worth, but it can kind of be tied or attributed to their ambition too. Like I really want to
improve
in 5 years'
myself.
time, I want to be earning this because I feel like I'm worth this, and I feel like that's going to help our situation.
And what they're earning now, I guess, is no indication of what they're capable of earning, because you might meet someone who's had a career change and they're starting at the bottom of their band, but they're super ambitious and they want to kind of carry on. So I guess, again, that comes down to values. So you're either ambitious or you're not. And you can ask that of that person and kind of figure out what they're doing. But I think, the cost of living is so high now, and it's really not okay just to cruise anymore. So you can't really live as the starving artist, and it just doesn't work in this country. And if you're thinking, I'm talking about the younger cohort here, where they possibly want to have children together, that costs money, as you well know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I don't blame young people for wanting to understand a modicum of what that person might be capable of in a financial sense, because it's really expensive to live in this country and raise a family.
When it does come to bringing your money together in a relationship, we assume the dates have all gone well. We're a boyfriend and girlfriend. We might move in together. What's the least risky way to bring the money together in the relationship?
Yeah, you've got to be a little bit careful, because with the whole contracting out agreement thing, so when you are in the initial stages of dating, you're looking for flags, right? So you're looking for green and you're looking for red and you're looking for beige. I was chatting about this with my 16-year-old daughter this afternoon, saying I was coming to talk about dating and finances, and I told her the story about how I asked Fred if he owned a credit card, and she said, well, what would you have said if he did?
Yeah. Good point.
And I thought about that, and I said to her, well, I think it would have been a beige flag, because there were so many other greens. I wouldn't, because just having a credit card doesn't mean that you're crap with money.
No, totally.
It means that you lack access to be able to spend money, so that, it's a less transparent form of paying for things.
It's just a piece of information you put on the shelf and you might consider later on if things
beige
start to
flag.
snowball in that
Beige
direction.
flag.
Yeah.
But you are looking for green and red flags when you're dating someone, right?
Yeah.
In a personality sense, and can I live with this person? Are we aligned in terms of our values in general, not just financially? So for me, the red flag would be if there is a negative or discomforting reaction to you starting to talk about finances in the early stages, run a mile. Because if you start mentioning, one of the things that I would like to do is implement a contracting out agreement or prenup or whatever you want to call it. And then they negatively react to that, massive red flag.
We've spoken about how early is too early to bring it up.
Yeah.
But how do you turn it into a regular conversation? Say you've started you'll be on the first and second date, you're actually kind of together-ish.
Yes.
When you turn that into an open, regular thing?
You don't want to come in too heavy too early because, a bit intense might freak them out.
Yeah.
May come across as a financial audit rather than a date.
Yeah.
But certainly keeping the communication lines open, in a light sense in the early stages and continuing that communication, because it's really important for all couples to continue to communicate around money on a frequent basis.
Well, not just money.
Everything.
But money is
on money.
is a core thing
Yes,
to communicate
absolutely.
about all the time.
Yeah. So the more you can understand how they communicate about that subject, since we're talking about it, the better.
Well, if you like that episode, don't forget to swipe right on the podcast wherever you can get it. YouTube, Spotify, and of course, coming to a Tinder app near you soon. Seriously though, tell your friends because we love your downloads. Until I see you on the next date, I'll keep asking the question, where's my money? This episode of Where's My Money was brought to you by Enable Me. Make 2026 the year you stress less about money with Enable Me's financial coaching and strategic advice. Pay down debt, grow wealth, retire well. For more information, head to enable.me today.